clean your games, here's what tools you're going to need. You're going to need a screwdriver that has removable bits. So you got a hex end that looks like that. And we got ourselves a 3-point-millimeter bit. This is a game bit. It is hard to come by. You cannot go by your local hardware store in most cases and purchase one of these. I got this off of eBay for $1. And these are pretty cheap. Just look for a reputable company that's selling these online. Make sure they have good feedback score and good comments and reviews there, and make your purchase. These shouldn't be too expensive at all. And you just put the bit in the end of your screwdriver like that, and fits down in there just like that, and you should be able to take your game apart. So I'm going to press down, hear a little click, which is the bit meeting up with the head of the screw, and that one's been loosened. Same thing with this one. That one has come out. Well, I tell you, these game bits are well worth it. I only spent $1, maybe a few dollars in shipping. All in all, you know, $5 to $10. This is well worth it to be able to open up these games and thoroughly clean them from the inside out. And you'll see what I'm going to do with these contacts that makes this really well worth it. So a lot of these are latched at the top. They have two little latches, so you want to pick it up from the bottom and lift outward like this. Set that aside, and this right here is your video game. What I've got going here is Pinball Quest, the world's first pinball fantasy. I've never heard of this one and I've never played it, but it looks like a fairly old game, maybe one of the originals that was released for the NES. Well, not quite. You can see it's posted on the PCB here, 1987. It is an old game, and I'm gonna have to check online to see what its popularity is, but it looks like a fun game. Anything that's virtual pinball or real pinball is a lot of fun. So I want to see what this one's like. It was a non-working game before I opened it up. It should be a working, fully functional game once we're finished cleaning our PCB up here. So let's set this aside. First thing we're going to do is we're going to check out and make sure that there's no physical damage. Look at your ROM chips and make sure all the contacts aren't broke loose, which they seem to be okay right there. These contacts are very dirty. They've got a layer of old corrosion on them, dirt and corrosion, and that explains why this game cartridge doesn't work. I'm going to lay that down. I've got my anti-static bag here that I want to work with. Makes things a lot easier, a lot safer to work with these old video games, since we're dealing with a basically a PC type component here. And you've got ROM chips that can be damaged from electrostatic discharge. So take your plain Jane eraser here and go to town on this SOB. So you want to make sure I've got a good view here so everybody can see. Okay, so take your eraser and just scrub the crap out of it back and forth against your video game contacts all the way across. You're going to make a mess, of course. You know what happens with the eraser shavings, they go everywhere. So we'll discard those here in just a little bit. Then I'm going to go with the grain here. Do a little up and down action. Against again. And with. You probably want to end going with the grain, up and down with the contacts. Then you want to turn it over and do the same thing on the back side. scrub the living crap out of it all the way down to the end. Okay, you can even take it like this, scrub this way. Okay, now I'm going to go with the grain on the contacts. Now the eraser, we're going to put it aside, get rid of these shavings. Get your canned air out, take it aside, blow it, get rid of the eraser shavings. It's most of the grime has been loosened, but now it's got the residue has to be cleaned off. So this is where I use an old toothbrush. So I'm going to soak my toothbrush in some rubbing alcohol here. Okay. And tap off the excess. And then just in this portion only, I'm going to do a little scraping action. Make sure you can see here. Do a little scraping action about like that. Do the same over here. Maybe go across it like this. There. Our toothbrush has loosened it up. Now wet the end of your Q-tip. Go back over the contacts with your Q-tip. Make sure you squeeze the end of the Q-tip and get rid of all the excess. You don't want it dripping all over your PCB board and your ROM chips. So scrub the tar out of it. Okay. And take your rag here and with the grain, you see how the contacts go up and down like that? That's what I mean by with the grain. With the grain, we want to wipe down to dry these off. I'm going to wipe down here to dry those off, and I'm going to wipe across a little bit to remove any other loose residue. Wipe across. Okay. They look much better already. Much better. You can do this a second time if the grime is caked on more than this game, which I wouldn't be surprised if you guys have a lot of games out there that are almost black on these contacts. So last but not least, give a little spritz with your canned air. Okay. Let it sit out for a minute to dry, and take your top cover with your ROM chips facing down, put it back in its initial slots here. It fits in place only one way there. Okay. And then you got your tabs at, there we go. You got your 1, 2, 3 tabs right here. You want to put those in first and lay your game, the back of your game cartridge down. Take your 3 screws and drop them down in the holes. Okay, just like that. Get down in there. There we go. And take your 3.8 millimeter game cartridge head or bit and tighten down the middle one first. Don't put too much force on it, as you are tightening down on plastic and you can crack the plastic. You don't want to do that. So once it starts to feel pretty tight, let go of it. I'm going to go ahead and tighten this one. Okay. And get my bit out of there. I'm going to tighten this one to finish up our game cartridge cleaning on the inside. Let's see if we brought her back to life. Pinball Quest. And there you have it. That cartridge was non-functional even in a refurbished Nintendo with brand new pins. it couldn't make a contact because of the corrosion and the buildup on its pins, therefore not allowing the game to work with the NES. All you gotta do is put a little effort into it, a couple of cheap supplies, and you'll have you a newly working NES game again. So I appreciate you guys watching. This has been a Classic Gamers HQ DIY on how to clean up your NES games and bring them back to life.